Yeah, Tanja joined us half a year ago, I think, as a UX designer. And actually, UX is not UI designer. And I think Tanja will tell us a little bit about what the difference between user interface design and user experience is. And here's the stage.
Okay, so thank you, Martin, for the introduction. As he said, my name is Tanja, and I joined Checkmk last November as a user experience designer. And today I have the pleasure of talking to you about user experience in Checkmk. And I hope you still can concentrate and are not that now in the party mood. And for the beginning, I want to take you through a brief history of user experience in Checkmk. In the beginning, with the Checkmk 1.6 and all prior versions, we had the all-in-one developers. Matthias, Lars, and our other first developers were doing product management, coding, of course, consulting, and user experience design. So they had a lot of roles to fill. With the Checkmk 2.0, a new era began. You all saw the redesign. We completely redesigned the whole software, focusing on the general navigation and a modern look and feel. But of course, there's more to Checkmk than that, and that's what we want to address with the 2.2 and all upcoming versions. We want to reduce your daily pain and your struggle when working with Checkmk, so you can focus on the important stuff. This applies to improvements as well as all new features. We do this with a data-informed UX process, which I want to present to you in this talk. But I know it's quite late, and talking about processes can always be a little bit boring. And I, of course, don't want to bore you. So I'm using an abstract and a hopefully fun example. Doors. Doors are, generally speaking, easy to use and to open. But some of them, and you probably can feel with me, they make you stop and think. I have such a door for you in this picture, and you all know Slido can be used for pulls, pulls, and I want you to imagine that you're approaching this door in a hurry. How do you open it? Do you push or do you pull? Please answer now via Slido. I hope the internet connection works, and well, I can already see her. Let's take a little bit of the time if some more people are participating. It looks kind of even, like push-pull 40 to 59, 39, 46. Okay. I think that's a good enough data set. We have like round about 50-50, which is really nice. So, and I of course want to resolve that for you. It is indeed a push door, so you have to push to open it. So around 50% of you would have tried to pull on this door just to realize that you have to push. You would have been frustrated, your momentum would have been totally broken, and every time you would have approached the door again, you would have been annoyed. Because how do you open it again? In the end, just no fun to use that door. But I'm sure we can improve that. So I was thinking about what makes a door easy to use. And the first thing that came to my mind was a sign. But as you can see, don't push, pull only, or is it don't pull, push only? It can be very confusing. So yeah, signs, are they really the answer? Because maybe you don't even speak the language it is written in, or most frustrating thing, there is a sign, but you have not read it because you were in a hurry and you still tried to pull on the push door. Also, why should something as simple as a door need instructions anyway? So a sign is not the answer. What else? We could, of course, install a totally different door, like a door that opens both ways, like this one. It's called a double action door. But sometimes this is not feasible due to a tight budget or simply not having enough space to install that door. So no double action. What's left? Well, The best case would be that if you approach a door, you intuitively know what you have to do. So maybe a clear handle design, like this one. And I would say, let's try it out. I have here another door for you, kind of a prototype of a door. It now has no handle at all, but instead a simple metal plate installed. And I'm asking you again, do you push or do you pull on that door? So, I have the feeling this will be way clearer now than before. And I think we can resolve it. It is indeed intended to be a push door. Because there's no handle, how should you pull on that door? So, why have I told you about this example? Because we have basically improved the user experience of this door for around 40% of you. Because you could now open it on the first try and be less frustrated and of course a lot faster. So a little summary of what we did. We understood the problem, people were running into the door. We defined requirements, what makes the door easy to use. We came up with a new prototype and tested it in a very simple and small manner. We could, of course, repeat that cycle again as many times as we want, for example, to get the last 10% on board, until we are satisfied with the result, as this cycle is closed. So, and this is exactly what we want to do when tackling user experience in Checkmk. We want to improve any of those doors that are confusing or difficult to use. So you can be more productive, intuitively know what you have to do next, and be less frustrated when working with Checkmk. And let's be honest, there's a lot of work to do. We will address this on 3 different layers. The first one are simple elements, our smallest units, for example, icons. The second ones are dialogues, like a confirmation dialogue when deleting a host. And the third one are complex workflows, like setting up AWS monitoring, which currently takes you on quite a journey throughout Checkmk. And those is of course very theoretical. I want to show you some examples of what we already achieved in the 2.2. Let's start again with our smallest elements, the icons. For one thing, maybe you have participated in the microsurvey about it. We changed the filter icon, so it now looks more like a filter and less like, well, the Spotify logo. One more example with icons. We introduced a unique icon for the TLS registration removal, so it is now no longer the same one as for the delete host action. But icons can also have a little bit more impact. For example, the toggle for show checkboxes to indicate whether checkboxes are actually visible or not was before a blue rectangle with a green check mark on it when it was active. This made it quite hard to see due to the low contrast between those 2 colors what was the actual state. That's why we introduced a new icon for this, which you might recognize from your mobile devices. It's this green pill if it's active and gray one is if it's not active. While reworking the icon, we discovered a pretty neat side effect. In the last section, we had before 2 actions. This page without navigation and this page with navigation. We simply merged both actions into one, now show page navigation, to make it even simpler to use the action. Let's stay a little bit longer in this dialogue. We did quite a few things there. There's also the action customize view, which depending on where you are, either creates a clone of a built-in view, or if you are already on a custom view, takes you to editing it. Neither of these actions are really correctly represented in this label. That's why we split it into 2 actions. So if you are on a built-in view, it has now the label clone built-in view with a clone icon in front of it. And if you are on a custom view, it simply says edit my view with the edit pencil in front of it. So pretty neat. But actually my favorite example of the improvements is in the Agent Bakery. I guess most of you maybe raise your hand if you have used the Agent Bakery before. Yeah, there's a lot of you. You might have run into that problem if you want to bake and sign an agent. You have to click on this button on top, which opens this neat little dialog, Sign Agents, where you just have to select your key to sign it with and enter the key passphrase. The only thing left to do now is to confirm that dialog. We witnessed a lot of users who were clicking again on that big orange button on top. Because it looks very clickable, doesn't it? But unfortunately, this simply refreshes the page and does not actually bake and sign the agent. For that, you have to click on that button below, which is dark on a dark background, so not that good visible. For this case, the solution was quite simple and really fast to improve, because we simply made that button green now. Yeah. Yeah, glad you like it. Because it's now consistent to our other confirmation dialogues and also way better visible, of course. We have some troubles with inconsistency with buttons, positioning-wise and styling-wise. For example, if you want to trigger a network parent scan, you have to click on that gray button on the bottom, and this is inconsistent with other buttons triggering a background job, like a service discovery. So for the 2.2, we moved it to the top, added an icon in front of it, in front of the label, and a green stroke around it, making it more visible and easier to access. Yeah, with the 2.0, we introduced the Show More option, so you are no longer overwhelmed with too many options. However, we have discovered that some of the settings that are currently hidden are more often in use than we expected. For example, when you're setting up a piggyback connection or DCD, one of the most important settings is the restrict source hosts. Before, this was hidden under the Show More, making it quite hard to correctly set up the DCD. But we moved it now out of there and right below the connector type selector, so it's now always visible and it's easier for you to set up a piggyback connection. I have another example for the Show More button, the IP address family, which is also now no longer hidden under Show More, so new users no longer wonder why they can only enter an IPv4 address. So let's move on to error messages. They are never fun, I think we can agree on this, but they are even more frustrating if they do not explain what is actually wrong or how to solve it. One of these examples is the combined graphs. If you have already combined a graph, you might have run into this error message, and it's a very technical one. If I would read it, I had no idea what to do. So with the 2.2, we changed that error message, so it now explains why there's no data shown, because it can only display, it cannot display more than 200 objects, and how to solve it with adding more filters to match on fewer hosts and services, so you can more easily recover from an error. I have another example for you for error messages in the agent updater. Sometimes it produces this error message, which is actually asking you a question, what you did. I mean, this does sound very human, which is usually great, but in this instance, not really helpful. The reason for this was that no matter the cause, you were always shown the exactly same error message. We have tweaked it so that you now get a helpful error message instead related to the cause, allowing you to easily fix the problem. For example, in this one, the solution would now be to go to the agent bakery and bake and sign your agent. And we all know this is now way easier because the button is actually green and visible. But sometimes One other thing, confirming stuff is also pretty important in Checkmk, especially when it comes to deleting stuff, because we don't want you to accidentally delete the wrong thing. This can be very hard to recover from. Before, we had the rule number and ID written in the confirmation dialog when deleting a rule. Neither of these values were actually in the table below, so you could not cross-check if you are deleting the right thing. We improved that with the 2.2, as you can see on the right side. The rule number is now written in the table below, and instead of the ID, we are now showing the rule description if it is available. We also clarified the label of the buttons with delete and cancel instead of yes and no, and added yellow colors to it to indicate a warning, to really catch your attention. Because yellow is a great color for catching your attention, but not so much for an inline help. Enabling the inline help can sometimes feel like you did something really, really wrong with all those yellow boxes. This is, of course, not our intention. That's why we changed it in the 2.2 to an informational blue, so it's now way more calming and reassuring that we actually want to help you and not warn you about something. And also, if you look closely, we added a slightly gray stroke around the button below at label condition to make them at least a little bit more visible. Making things visible and readable is also very important. We have lots of important things because we want you to be able to get an overview over your infrastructure as fast as possible. Previously, the host states in host groups, up, down, undecided, and pending, were not colored. We have changed this to enable you to quickly see the state of the hosts, as it should always have been. So, one more thing for a good overview is, of course, to avoid cluttering you with irrelevant data. That's why we decided to only show the hardware-software inventory if there's actually data available, and also to hide the setup menu on remote sites when the setup is disabled. But these were all really great improvements in the 2.2, but in the beginning I told you it's not only about improvements, but also new features. You already heard a lot about the filtering of labels with and or not operator, and I want to walk you a little bit through the user experience process behind of it. For the feature, I created 2 wireframe versions of the feature. Wireframes are rough concepts that focus on the layout and interaction and not so much on styling or colors. Both wireframes differ in the interaction concept. With the first one on the left side, you have to click a button to add a new label or to filter by a new label. And in the second one, a new input field gets automatically created as soon as the one before is filled. Both of those versions were feasible and viable. That's why we ran a survey about it and asked you, the users, which concepts you prefer and why. The results were quite interesting, but because as the door before, it was around 50-50 for each version. So it was kind of indecisive. Of course, we could have just chosen one, but this is not the way we want to do things. So instead of just choosing one, we dug into why you prefer them, and it turned out that both options had great positive and negative aspects. The first version was liked because it gives you more agency, and it's also less cluttered without the empty input fields. On the other hand, you like the second version because it's very fast. You don't have to click on anything else. It simply creates all input fields. So it would be very fast for you to set up a query. That is why we combined both of these options to create the best of both worlds, as you can see here now. Because if you now want to create a simple query, you can do this very fast because within a group, a new input field is automatically created. But if you want to set up a complex query, you have to click on the button below, Add to Query, making it less cluttered and a distinct action for you. And all of those improvements and features I just showed you are already available in the 2.2. There's lots of more stuff you've already heard about, but those are some insights from my side. I'm not done yet, because we are, of course, already working on the 2.3, and I want to give you a little outlook on one project I'm currently working on, the Acknowledge Problems dialogue. The trigger for this one actually came from a forum post where a user wrote, anytime a new user acknowledges a problem, they need to Google check the documentation for the meaning of the sticky checkbox. Yeah, right? We all have been there. And we had the same reaction, so after doing a quick internal research, we realized this is a real common problem among the users, among you, and it does not only apply to sticky, but also to send notification and persistent comment. So we took a closer look at it, and there were some more usability problems, and I want to highlight some of them to you. We already talked about the labels, but also arranging them next to each other makes it hard to scan and to spot all possible options you have. Beneath that, we have expire acknowledgement after 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and this always raises the question, what will actually happen when it's 000? Does it mean it expires right away, or does it never expire? One last thing I want to point out is the remove acknowledgement button. This is actually a destructive action within the dialog, which has nothing to do with all the other options there, because it simply removes all acknowledgements that are in your current view. This can, as you well know, result in many unnecessary notifications. As you can see, there's much room for improvement, and also acknowledging problem is kind of crucial for your daily monitoring. So we decided to rework the dialogue so you can be faster and it's less error prone. And we started the process. Understand, define, prototype, test, and repeat. In summary, we ran a micro-survey with 61 participants to better understand how you are actually using acknowledgements and what could be meaningful defaults. We ran 2 usability tests, one with 6 internal testers, they were consultants from Checkmk, and one with 7 external testers, real users. In total, we did 4 major iterations of that dialogue, and I want to show them to you now. It all started with a rough sketch of the reworked dialogue. As you can see, it is only handwritten and focuses on the labels and general structure. I gathered internal feedback for this dialogue and revised it to this version. I repeated that cycle one more time to gather more insights and to be able to create a clickable prototype. As you can see, it is now less rough and even some colors were introduced. With this prototype, I did a first round of usability testing internally with our consultants to get more insights into the areas that still needed work. And there were some, so I revised the dialogue again in the 3rd iteration. And this one I then tested with 7 users, 7 of you. And for this, I provided a lifelike scenario to work through and get qualitative feedback to do a 4th iteration. This one. It is now a high-fidelity mockup, so fully styled in the dark theme. And I want to point out some of the things we improved. First, the expiration day. It is now a simple date and time picker, so you can enter the desired expiration date or choose it with a visual calendar. We also added a checkbox in front of it, so you don't have to wonder anymore if it will expire or not. Next, the sticky persistent comment and notifications are now underneath each other, so you can easily scan for your desired options and what do you want to click. We also choose better labels, so you can now make an informed decision how you want the acknowledgement to behave. But we kept the terminology at the end to make it easier recognizable for you. Also, we got rid of the remove acknowledgement button in the dialog, but because this has no real place here, we moved it to the commands menu instead. We added there now a cancel button, giving you an easy way out of the dialog. This is now a detailed example of the UX process, of the new way we are doing things. And starting with the trigger and ending with the feedback loops, the most important thing was to involve you, our users. My point is to show you we take you seriously and we need your feedback to optimize the user experience for you. And if you want to get involved, there are multiple ways to do so. Maybe you have already seen in the forum or via newsletter, we are running micro-surveys once a month. They take less than 5 minutes to complete and are a simple online survey. We also run regular surveys, of course. They are a little bit longer than micro-surveys, but still easy and fast to complete online. We also do interviews and usability tests. They take both around 30 to 60 minutes each and are done remotely via video call. While interviews are like having a little chat with you about a specific topic, in a usability test, you can test a prototype of an improvement or a feature or about how it currently is. But don't worry, there's never the need for you to install anything. We bring everything to you. So if you're now thinking, hey, this sounds really great, sign me up, then keep an eye open in the Checkmk forum where we announce the new researchers in the announcement section, or simply talk to us during the conference, or directly via email. And one last thing, then we're done. I'm very happy to announce that we are recently set up a new mailing list specifically for new research announcements. So if you never want to miss another opportunity again, sign up for the mailing list, either via scanning the QR code on the right or directly visiting list.checkmk.com and look for the Checkmk user experience research mailing list. There are a bunch of other mailing lists there which are also quite great. And to summarize, I can't wait to hear your feedback, because if you participate, we can shape the future of Checkmk together. And this is basically it. Thank you for your attention so far. If you have any questions or feedback for me, now is the time to ask.
That's good. Finally, we have someone who takes away the pain from you. Yeah? We actually, we have a question from Christian, yeah?
Yeah.
Around the downtime problems dialogue.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe share if you're planning something there?
Sorry?
Scheduled downtimes dialogue. Do we plan something there? Do you have anything on mind for that?
Yeah, we are also reworking the scheduled downtimes dialogue, because both are very easy accessible via the monitoring. And if you have seen the scheduled downtimes dialogue, there are lots of stuff going on, and we try to streamline this one a little bit too.
Okay. So we might also get the calendar function there.
Yeah.
Will we get the calendar function also in other places in Checkmk?
Oh, hopefully in mostly all of them during all the time, because we're trying to work through Checkmk step by step, and there's a lots of great features waiting for us.
Do you know how we deal with time zones in the time data fields and acknowledged problems?
Yeah, this is a tough one. We are currently using the system data zone. We might have to really dig into this one again. And
will we get this dialogue also in a patch release, or will it just be in 2.3?
Martin, what do you say?
I don't know. I think I have to ask the developer who will build it, because we can. I don't know what the implications of it are. Yeah, I mean, I think we planned it for 2.3. I think that's up to the developer. Typically, we don't backport things, new features to 2.2, but that's up to the development team to decide. And it seems like you really like it, so yeah. So we have some other questions, but I would basically, for all the other questions which we have in Slido, I will spend some time before the evening event to go through them, answer them, because there are a lot of different things on different topics. So I until tomorrow, they will be still there. I will leave the answers in there so that you can read upon them. And tomorrow, before we start day 2, they will be deleted, and we will do basically only the ones which are relevant to the roadmap. We will leave in there. We will archive them, though, and unarchive them back before the roadmap talk, so that we have a clean sheet also tomorrow for the Q&As. So please make sure that if you have put a question in it, that you read it until tomorrow, 10 or 11 a.m. And I will try to answer anything. I actually already asked Lars if he can help me, because there were a lot of things which are really under the hood.
Yeah, I'm also at the Knowledge Fair, so if you have any specific topics you'd like to talk about, just visit me at the Deep Dive booth.
Okay, with that, we have a question? Fantastic.
Hello. One question. What's about assistance for beginners, for example, wizards, etc.? Would it be a task for you, or would it be another team? Are there any plans?
This is absolutely a task for me, and this is something we really want to address, because getting into Checkmk is kind of hard right now, and we want to simplify that so new users can get started more easily and faster.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime.